Have you ever stood in the ruins of an ancient city and felt something more than just the weight of history, something almost magical, as if the stones beneath your feet were whispering secrets from the stars? For our ancestors, the night sky wasn't just a spectacle, it was a blueprint, a divine map waiting to be brought to life here on Earth. Long before modern urban planners with their grids and zoning laws, civilizations across the globe were designing their cities as breathtaking reflections of the cosmos, aligning streets, temples, and plazas with the movements of the sun, the moon, and distant constellations. This wasn't just architecture, it was celestial mapmaking, an art form that wove together astronomy, mythology, and spirituality into the very fabric of urban life. Picture yourself walking through the sacred precincts of ancient Egypt, where the Nile was seen as a terrestrial mirror of the Milky Way, or imagine standing in the heart of a Maya city, where pyramids rose like man-made mountains, precisely oriented to capture the first light of Venus at its brightest. From the grand imperial capitals of China to the ritual centers of the Andes, our forebears didn't just look up at the sky in wonder, they brought it down to earth. They believed that by mirroring the heavens in their cities, they could channel cosmic energy, maintain balance between humanity and the divine, and even ensure the continuity of life itself. Every alignment had meaning, every axis told a story. In this video, we're going to unravel those stories. We'll explore how and why cultures as diverse as the Egyptians, the Maya, and the Chinese designed their urban landscapes as cosmic diagrams, what scholars call cosmological urbanism. You'll discover the hidden connections between temple orientation and agricultural cycles, between myth and city layout, between power and the stars. And perhaps most compellingly, we'll see what these ancient practices can teach us today about building places that aren't just functional, but meaningful. So come with me on this journey across time and space, as we decode the heavens etched into stone and earth, and reconnect with a vision of urban life that saw and celebrated our place in something truly vast. Long before the first modern city grid was ever drawn, our ancestors gazed upward and saw something astonishing, not a cold, empty expanse, but a living, breathing celestial map, rich with meaning and divine intention. They looked at the orderly procession of stars, the predictable paths of the sun and moon, and they saw a blueprint, a perfect heavenly order that they felt compelled to replicate right here on Earth. This profound practice, what scholars now call cosmological urbanism, didn't just spring up in one place. It emerged independently, a shared human impulse that took root in the fertile river valleys of Mesopotamia, the dense jungles of Mesoamerica, and the sprawling empires of Asia. It was as if cultures separated by vast oceans and continents were all humming the same cosmic tune, each building their own verse into the stone and earth of their cities. This was far more than simple symbolism. Think of it not as decoration, but as a form of sacred technology. Renowned scholars like Mircea Eliade referred to this as the idea of the axis mundi, a central point that connects the heavens, the earth, and the underworld, while Anthony Aveni, a pioneer in the field of archaeoastronomy, has spent decades uncovering how these alignments functioned as precise calendars and ritual markers. For these ancient builders, replicating the cosmos on the ground was a way to tap into its power. It was believed to channel celestial energy, or what many cultures simply called cosmic order, directly into the heart of the community. This divine harmony, known as Ma'at to the Egyptians, was the fundamental principle of existence. It was the balance between chaos and order, and by orienting a temple's entrance to where a specific star like Sirius would rise, They weren't just honoring a god, they were actively participating in maintaining the universe itself, ensuring the Nile would flood, the crops would grow, and the kingdom would prosper. This deep-seated belief also served a powerful social and political purpose. When a ruler claimed their capital city was a mirror of the heavens, with their palace at the center of it all, they were making a bold statement about their authority. They were positioning themselves as the essential link, the intermediary between the gods and the people. Their power wasn't just inherited, it was cosmically ordained. The very layout of the city, with its celestial alignments, was a daily, physical reminder to every citizen of their place within a divinely sanctioned hierarchy. This foundational concept of the macrocosm, the vast universe being reflected in the microcosm, the human-scale city, reveals a worldview where nothing was separate. The spiritual was woven into the practical, the astronomical into the architectural, creating urban landscapes that were not only functional places for living and trading, but also sacred spaces for connecting with the very forces of creation. At the very heart of so many of these cosmically aligned cities, you would have found a single, powerful idea made manifest in stone: the axis mundi. This concept, translating to the world axis or world pillar, was seen across cultures as the sacred center of the universe, the pivotal point connecting the heavens, the earth, and the subterranean realms. It was the ultimate point of connection, and ancient planners made it the literal and spiritual centerpiece of their urban designs. This wasn't a vague, abstract notion. It was physically built into the landscape, often as a towering ziggurat, an immense pyramid, or a sacred temple that dominated the city's skyline, serving as a constant, visible reminder of the link between the human and the divine. Consider the magnificent ziggurat of Babylon, known as Etemenanki, a name that poetically means the temple of the foundation of heaven and earth. This colossal, stepped structure was far more than just a building. To the Babylonians, it was the very navel of the world. It was believed to be the place where the god Marduk had created the universe, and its peak was thought to physically touch the realm of the gods. Its alignment with key polar stars wasn't just for show. It anchored the entire city to the unchanging, eternal center of the celestial sphere, making Babylon a true cosmic capital. This central axis organized everything around it. The grand processional way used for religious festivals led directly to it, markets buzzed in its shadow, and the social hierarchy was physically laid out, with the elite living closer to this divine axis and the commoners further out in the symbolic periphery of the cosmos. This pattern of a symbolic world center repeats itself across the globe with stunning similarity. In Hindu and Buddhist cosmology, the immense golden Mount Meru stands as the axis of all universes, the home of the gods. This powerful idea didn't stay in the realm of myth. It directly inspired the layout of entire cities and temple complexes across Southeast Asia. Ancient capitals like Angkor in Cambodia or Ayutthaya in Thailand were designed as microcosmic representations of this holy mountain. They often featured a central temple pyramid representing Meru itself, surrounded by concentric rings of walls and moats. These rings mirrored the cosmic oceans and mountain ranges described in sacred texts, turning a simple city map into a breathtaking three-dimensional mandala of the universe. By simply walking from the outer city toward the central temple, a pilgrim was symbolically traveling from the mundane edges of existence toward the sacred center of all creation. The genius of the Axis Mundi was its dual purpose. While its primary function was spiritual, creating a tangible conduit for prayers to ascend and divine blessings to descend, it was also incredibly practical. It gave the city an undeniable organizational logic. Major roads often radiated out from this central point like spokes on a wheel, making navigation intuitive. It designated a clear, powerful focal point for public life, where trade, administration, and community gatherings could naturally coalesce. Most importantly, it infused the utterly ordinary moments of daily life with a layer of cosmic significance. A merchant selling goods in a market aligned to the world axis wasn't just conducting business, they were participating in a divinely ordered system. The city itself became a living ritual, a continuous performance of the culture's most fundamental beliefs about order, balance, and humanity's place in the grand scheme of existence. While the axis Mundi provided a sacred center, ancient city planners extended that cosmic order outward through a second, equally vital principle: meticulous alignment to the cardinal directions. This wasn't simply about finding north, it was about embedding the fundamental structure of the cosmos into the very streets and walls of a city. Achieving this perfect north-southeast-west orientation required profound astronomical skill, often gained through patient, generations-long observation of the heavens. The sun's path, particularly its extreme rising and setting points at the solstices, served as a giant, reliable compass in the sky. So too did the slow, steady rotation of certain star groups around the celestial pole. By locking their city grids to these eternal celestial markers, ancient builders were essentially anchoring their entire community to the unwavering rhythms of the universe itself. The magnificent ruins of Teotihuacan, just outside modern-day Mexico City, offer a breathtaking example of this principle in stone. The city's colossal centerpiece, the Street of the Dead, doesn't run due north-south by accident. Archaeoastronomers have discovered its alignment is precisely calibrated to the setting point of the Pleiades star cluster, a deeply significant group of stars in Mesoamerican cosmology known as the Chanquistli, or the Marketplace. When this cluster set at its zenith directly over the street, it signaled a critical time in the agricultural and ritual cycle. Furthermore, the city's massive pyramids, such as the Pyramid of the Sun, are engineered to interact directly with the sun. On the equinoxes, the play of light and shadow creates dramatic effects that seem to bring the stepped structures to life, a powerful public demonstration of the priests and, by extension, the rulers' ability to predict and harness the power of the cosmos. On the other side of the world, Chinese imperial planners were mastering cardinal alignment through the sophisticated principles of Feng Shui and astrological science. Cities like Beijing were conceived as perfect earthly mirrors of heavenly order, with the Forbidden City sitting at its symbolic center. Its rigid north-south axis was paramount, designed to harmonize the flow of Kai, or cosmic energy, with the emperor's mandate from heaven. The main gates, halls, and throne rooms were all positioned along this central axis, aligning the Son of Heaven directly with the celestial pole star, which was seen as the immutable, supreme ruler of the night sky. This wasn't just spiritual poetry, it was a potent political statement. Every official entering the city from the south would travel this axis, physically and symbolically moving toward the source of all power, a journey that reinforced the emperor's divine right to rule the Middle Kingdom. Beyond the awe-inspiring spiritual and political symbolism, these precise alignments delivered immense practical benefits that were essential for survival and prosperity. A city oriented to the cardinal points functioned as a giant, open-air calendar. The shifting angles of sunlight through aligned gateways or off specific temple walls could mark the solstices, equinoxes, and other key dates with remarkable accuracy. This allowed priest astronomers to determine the optimal times for planting and harvest, manage water resources for irrigation, and schedule vital cultural ceremonies. In essence, the city itself became a timekeeping device, its architecture working in concert with the sky to guide the entire agricultural and social rhythm of the civilization. This seamless blend of utility and celestial majesty stands as a testament to the holistic genius of ancient urban planning, where serving the community and honoring the gods were one and the same. Now, to truly grasp the genius of this celestial thinking, we travel to the banks of the Nile, where the ancient Egyptians executed this vision on a scale that still takes our breath away. For them, the cosmos wasn't just an abstract idea to be mirrored. It was physically woven into their landscape, most profoundly in their view of the great river itself. They saw the Nile not merely as a source of life, but as the earthly twin of the heavenly river above the Milky Way. Just as the Nile split the land of Egypt into east and west, the Milky Way split the vault of the night sky. This wasn't a loose metaphor, it was a foundational belief that dictated where they built their greatest monuments and how they oriented their most sacred spaces. The entire country became a vast, interactive map of the heavens, with the river as its central axis. This celestial choreography reached its zenith in the city of Heliopolis, the paramount center of sun worship. Here, the priests weren't just astronomers, they were master planners who used the sky as their blueprint. The entire sacred precinct was designed as a massive instrument for tracking time and channeling divine power. Its towering obelisks, those needle-sharp monuments capped in electrum to catch the first rays of the sun, were precisely positioned. Their alignment was set to the heliacal rising of the star Sirius, known to the Egyptians as Sopdet. This was the most critical astronomical event of their year. Just before dawn, after a period of invisibility, Sirius would reappear just above the horizon, and this event heralded the imminent, life-giving flooding of the Nile. By capturing that first light on their obelisks, the priests of Heliopolis were not just predicting the flood, they were ritually activating it, demonstrating that the pharaoh, as the representative of the sun god Ra, held the power to ensure the river's bounty and maintain the cosmic order, or Mat. Perhaps the most famous and evocative example of this sky-ground mirroring is found at the Karnak temple complex in Thebes. The sprawling layout of its temples, pylons, and sacred lakes doesn't follow a random plan. Scholars like Virginia Lee Davis and others have argued compellingly that the core arrangement of its central structures corresponds directly to the three stars of Orion's belt. In Egyptian mythology, Orion was recognized as the god Osiris, the lord of the afterlife and the resurrected king. By building their most important religious center in his image, the Egyptians were creating a powerful, permanent link between the divine realm and the mortal ruler. The pharaoh, in life and in death, was physically walking a landscape that was the god himself, cementing his own destiny to join the eternal, unchanging stars and be reborn just as Osiris was. This ensured not only his personal immortality but the continued stability and prosperity of the entire kingdom. This profound connection between astronomy and urban planning was never arbitrary or merely decorative. It was a sacred duty, a necessary act of participation in the functioning of the universe itself. The Egyptians believed that if the earthly realm fell out of sync with the heavenly one, chaos would erupt. The Nile might not flood, the sun might not rise, and society would collapse into disorder. Therefore, the precise orientation of a temple gateway, the alignment of a processional avenue, or the foundation of a new city were acts of immense responsibility. They were literally building Mat into the world, stone by carefully placed stone. The result was a landscape that was breathtakingly efficient and mythologically profound, a civilization that lived its theology through its architecture, forever looking to the stars to guide its path on Earth. Leaving the banks of the Nile, we journeyed deep into the rainforests of Mesoamerica, where the Maya civilization perfected the art of building cities as living cosmograms, intricate, three-dimensional models of the universe itself. For the Maya, the world was not a chaotic place but a carefully ordered cosmos. and their urban centers were designed to be nothing less than a physical manifestation of that divine order. Walking into a city like Tikal or Kapan was not simply entering a place of residence. It was stepping into a symbolic landscape where every pyramid, plaza, and palace held profound cosmological meaning, telling the story of creation and humanity's role within it. The core of the Maya cosmos was a structure divided into 4 cardinal directions, each associated with its own color, god, and sacred tree, all encircling a central 5th point of supreme importance. This central axis was represented by the immense world tree known as the Waka-chan, or raised-up sky. In their city layouts, this cosmic blueprint was translated directly into stone. The great central plaza often symbolized the primordial sea from which the world emerged. The towering pyramids that rose around it were not just tombs or temples, they were man-made replicas of the sacred mountains that supported the heavens. At the very heart of this complex, a particularly significant pyramid or stela would serve as the physical embodiment of the world tree, its peak reaching into the realm of the gods and its roots delving into the watery underworld of Xibalba below. This entire arrangement turned the city into a functional spiritual instrument, a place where the boundaries between the earthly and the divine were intentionally blurred. This architectural genius was powered by some of the most advanced astronomical observations of the ancient world. The Maya were meticulous trackers of celestial cycles, and their cities were precisely engineered to align with them. The movement of the sun was paramount. Buildings were oriented so that on the equinoxes, the rising or setting sun would cast specific shadows across stairways or through doorways, creating dramatic light shows that marked these pivotal moments of solar balance. But their fascination extended far beyond our sun. The planet Venus, which they associated with the god Kukulkan, held immense sway over warfare and destiny. The precise alignment of buildings and sightlines in cities like Uxmal and Chichen Itza were calibrated to track Venus's complex cycles, its appearances and disappearances dictating the timing of military campaigns and royal ceremonies. We see this profound synthesis of astronomy and architecture perfectly embodied in the Temple of the Inscriptions at Palenque. This magnificent pyramid is far more than a beautiful structure. It is a deeply encoded monument. It served as the tomb of the great ruler Pakal the Great, and its 9 levels are thought to represent the 9 levels of the Maya underworld that his soul had to traverse. Most remarkably, the interior stairway leading to his tomb was designed so that on the winter solstice, the setting sun would cast a beam of light directly down the staircase, illuminating the burial chamber and symbolically connecting the deceased king to the sun's cyclical journey of death and rebirth. The temple itself becomes a permanent stone calendrical record, ensuring the king's eternal participation in the cosmic order. For a clearer view into their scientific pursuits, we can look to the Caracol Observatory at Chichen Itza. This unique, round structure stands out amidst the rectangular Maya architecture, its design specifically tailored for tracking the heavens. Its narrow windows and sightlines are precisely aligned to capture the extreme positions of Venus on the horizon, as well as the solstice sunsets. Priests astronomers would use this building not just for observation, but for prediction. By accurately forecasting celestial events, they could schedule the rituals essential for maintaining the cosmic balance. A ceremony performed at the exact moment Venus first appeared as the morning star was believed to harness its power, ensuring victory in battle or a bountiful harvest. The city, therefore, was not a passive mirror of the sky but an active stage for a continuous dialogue with the gods, a seamless blend of precise science and profound spirituality that guided every aspect of Maya life, from the divine right of kings to the agricultural cycles of the common people. From the stepped pyramids of the Maya, we now journey across the world to the grand imperial capitals of China, where urban planning was elevated to a sacred science of cosmic harmony. Here, the design of a city was not merely an architectural endeavor, but a profound act of aligning human civilization with the very order of the heavens. This philosophy was deeply rooted in the concept of the mandate of heaven, the belief that an emperor's right to rule was granted and maintained by celestial forces. To lose this mandate was to invite chaos, and thus the capital city had to be a perfect physical reflection of that divine approval, a microcosm where heaven and earth met in flawless balance. This celestial ambition was guided by two powerful, intertwined systems, Feng Shui and astrological science. Feng Shui, which translates to wind and water, was the art of positioning structures within the landscape to achieve optimal harmony with the natural flow of cosmic energy, or Chi. It wasn't about interior decoration. It was a complex geomantic practice that determined the most auspicious sites for cities, palaces, and tombs. Astrological charts, meticulously maintained by the imperial astronomers, mapped the movements of the sun, moon, planets, and stars. The layout of a capital had to resonate with these celestial patterns, ensuring that the emperor's earthly domain moved in lockstep with the heavenly one. A city built in such alignment was believed to attract prosperity, ensure stability, and affirm the dynasty's legitimacy for all to see. The magnificent Forbidden City in Beijing stands as the ultimate expression of this principle. Its entire layout is a breathtaking terrestrial replica of the Northern Dipper constellation, also known as the Big Dipper or Ursa Major. To the ancient Chinese, this asterism was not just a group of stars, it was the celestial chariot of the supreme deity, the pivot around which the heavens revolved. The architects of the Forbidden City ingeniously mapped this sacred pattern onto the ground. The series of grand halls along the central north-south axis, the Hall of Supreme Harmony, the Hall of Central Harmony, and the Hall of Preserving Harmony, along with their surrounding gates and courtyards, correspond precisely to the 7 stars of the Dipper. This design wasn't symbolic in a loose sense. It was a precise, functional diagram meant to channel the potent energy of the constellation directly to the Son of Heaven, who sat on his dragon throne at the cosmic pivot, governing the empire in perfect sync with the universe. This cosmic choreography extended to the city's defenses as well. The formidable walls and wide moats that encircled imperial capitals like Chang'an and Beijing were far more than military necessities. They replicated the celestial boundaries described in ancient classical texts like the Zhu Lai or Rites of Zhu, which outlined the ideal plan for a royal capital. These texts prescribed a square city with 12 gates, mirroring the 12 months of the year and the 12 divisions of the celestial sphere. The walls were not just barriers against invaders, they were symbolic demarcations between the ordered, sacred world within and the chaotic, profane world without. Inside was the center of the cosmos, a realm of perfect harmony. Outside was the unknown. This physical layout reinforced a powerful social hierarchy. The emperor resided at the absolute center within the Forbidden City, surrounded by the imperial family, then government officials, and finally the common citizens in the outer districts. Your proximity to the cosmic center was a direct reflection of your status in the celestial-inspired social order. Every element of the city, from the names of the gates to the colors of the roof tiles, was infused with astrological meaning. The Meridian Gate, the main southern entrance to the Forbidden City, aligned with the meridian line, the north-south axis that was considered the backbone of the heavens. The use of yellow roof tiles was reserved for the emperor alone, as yellow was the color associated with the center of the 5 directions and the element of earth, which occupied the central position in Chinese cosmology. Even the number of nails on the massive gates held numerological significance, often in multiples of 9, the number of the emperor and the heavens. This meticulous attention to detail transformed the entire urban environment into a continuous ritual space. A minister walking to an audience, a merchant selling his wares in a market aligned to a cardinal direction, or a scholar gazing at the stars from his courtyard, all were participating, often unknowingly, in a daily performance of cosmic order, their lives seamlessly integrated into a grand, celestial blueprint designed to ensure harmony between humanity, nature, and the cosmos. But who were the masterminds capable of such a feat? The visionary planners who could look at the scattered stars and see a city grid. They were the elite scholar-priests, the astronomer-architects, the keepers of celestial knowledge who served as the crucial bridge between the heavens and the earth. In an age without satellites or computer models, these individuals possessed a rare and powerful combination of spiritual authority and profound scientific understanding. They were the human instruments through which the cosmic blueprint was interpreted, measured, and finally etched into the landscape. Their role was absolutely indispensable, making them some of the most influential and respected figures in any ancient society. In the great Mesopotamian city of Babylon, this intellectual elite was known as the Amanyu. These were not merely temple priests. They were polymath scribes, physicians, astrologers, and mathematicians all rolled into one. They spent countless nights on the high platforms of ziggurats, meticulously tracking the movements of planets like Jupiter and Venus across the starry canvas. Their observations were not casual. They were methodically recorded in cuneiform on clay tablets, creating an enormous library of celestial data that was passed down through generations. This accumulated knowledge was the secret source of Babylonian urban planning. When it came time to lay out a new temple or orient a city gate, the Amanyu consulted these precise records. They knew, for instance, exactly where on the horizon the sun would rise on the spring equinox, and they would use that fixed point to establish a perfect east-west axis for the entire city, ensuring its harmony with the cosmic order they so diligently documented. A similar class of experts flourished in the cultures of Mesoamerica. The Maya, for example, had their Arkin, or He of the Sun, a high priest who specialized in the complex calendar systems. His understanding of the cycles of Venus and the solar year was not abstract academic knowledge. It was directly applied to the construction of cities. From his perch atop a pyramid temple, which served as a perfect observatory, he would use simple but incredibly effective tools. 2 crossed sticks could be used as a sighting device to pinpoint the exact location of a star's rise or set against a fixed stone marker on the distant horizon. By marking these extreme points over many years, he could determine the solstices and equinoxes with astonishing accuracy. This information was then conveyed to the architects and masons, dictating the orientation of a new building's facade so that the sun would blaze directly through its doorway on a specific, sacred day, creating a public spectacle that reinforced the power of both the ruler and the priestly class. The tools of these ancient scientists were elegantly simple yet brilliant in their application. Long before the magnetic compass, they used the sky itself as their guide. The gnomon, a simple vertical stick placed in the ground, was one of the most fundamental and powerful instruments. By carefully tracking the length and direction of its shadow throughout the day and across the seasons, a skilled observer could not only determine true north and south, but also calculate latitude and even mark the precise dates of the solstices, the days when the shadow was at its longest or shortest. The Egyptians used a tool called a merkit, a narrow, notched palm rib that functioned like a sighting tool. By aligning two Merkits with a specific star, they could create a perfect meridian line, an essential reference for orienting their monuments. These devices were the precursors to the astrolabes and theodolites of later centuries, proving that a deep understanding of geometry and astronomy could compensate for a lack of sophisticated technology. The influence these figures wielded cannot be overstated. Their ability to accurately predict celestial events like eclipses or the helical rising of a star gave them an aura of divine connection. They were the ones who could tell the farmer when to plant, the king when to wage war for astrological advantage, and the entire population when to gather for a propitiatory ceremony to ensure the sun's return after the winter solstice. This control over the calendar over time itself translated directly into political power. A ruler who had the head priest astronomer at his side was a ruler who could claim to have the gods' favor, his legitimacy cemented by the very stones of the city, all aligned to the eternal cycles of the cosmos. These master planners were the ultimate synthesizers, blending meticulous observation with mythic narrative to create urban landscapes that were both scientifically precise and spiritually profound, leaving a legacy of ordered stone that continues to awe us millennia later. Beyond the precise astronomical alignments and sacred axes, ancient cities wove an even richer tapestry of meaning through powerful symbolic elements embedded directly into their urban fabric. These were not just cities built to mirror the stars, they were cities built to tell stories. Every major structure, waterway, and public space could serve as a chapter in a culture's most sacred myths, turning the entire urban environment into a vast, open-air classroom and a three-dimensional storybook where citizens learned their place in the cosmos simply by going about their daily lives. This practice of encoding mythology into masonry transformed the city from a mere place of residence into a living, breathing narrative. Consider the foundational ritual of the Roman city. At the very heart of every new Roman settlement, before a single wall was raised, the priests would perform a ceremony to establish the mundus. This was a simple, circular pit dug into the bare earth, considered the symbolic mouth of the underworld and a point of communication with the dei inferi, the gods below. During certain days of the year, this pit would be opened, and it was believed the spirits of the ancestors would rise to walk among the living. The entire city would then be laid out around this profound central point. The mundus was more than a ritual object. It was a constant physical reminder of the city's connection to the unseen world, to its own past, and to the cyclical nature of life and death. It grounded the urban community in a deep, mythological timeline, making the city eternally present in both the world of the living and the dead. This use of urban design for spiritual instruction reaches a breathtaking level of complexity in the Hindu temple towns of India. Here, the entire city plan was often conceived as a giant mandala, an intricate geometric diagram representing the universe. The most famous example is the design principle outlined in the Vastu Purusha Mandala, a sacred text that describes the cosmos as a square occupied by a cosmic man. This diagram wasn't just a drawing, it was the literal blueprint for construction. A temple city like Madurai was designed as a series of concentric square walls and moats, with the innermost sanctum housing the main deity at the very center, symbolizing the cosmic axis. As a devotee moved from the noisy, outer commercial streets through each successive, quieter gateway toward the central temple, they weren't just taking a walk, they were symbolically journeying from the outer, material edges of existence inward toward the spiritual core of the universe. The city's layout physically guided them through a process of spiritual purification and focus, making theology an experiential reality. Perhaps no city exemplifies this layered symbolism more vividly than the Aztec capital of Tenochtitlan, a magnificent metropolis built on an island in the middle of Lake Texcoco. At its physical and spiritual heart stood the Templo Mayor, a massive double pyramid. This was not a single structure but two temples stacked together, one dedicated to Tlaloc, the god of rain and agriculture, and the other to Huitzilopochtli, the god of sun and war. This dual pyramid was far more than a convenient place to worship two important gods. It was a direct representation of the sacred geography of the Aztec cosmos. It symbolized the twin mountains of Tonacatepetl, the mountain of sustenance, and Coatepec, the serpent mountain, the legendary site of Huitzilopochtli's birth. By climbing its steps, priests were metaphorically ascending these divine peaks to commune with the gods. The symbolism extended into the city's very infrastructure. Tenochtitlan was crisscrossed by a network of canals and divided into four major sections. This was a practical solution for a city on a lake, but it was also a profound cosmic map. The four sectors represented the four cardinal directions of the universe, each associated with a specific god, color, and element. The canals themselves mirrored the primordial waters from which the world was believed to have emerged. When a citizen paddled their canoe along these waterways, they were navigating the currents of creation itself. The entire city was a constant, immersive reenactment of the Aztec origin story, reinforcing the identity of its people as the chosen ones, dwelling at the very center of the cosmos, tasked with maintaining its balance through ritual and sacrifice. This wasn't mere decoration. It was a powerful mechanism for social cohesion and cultural education, ensuring that every single person, from the highest noble to the lowest commoner, understood their role within a grand, divine narrative simply by inhabiting the space around them. Of course, the meticulous work of these ancient priest astronomers is now being validated and brought into stunning clarity by a modern scientific discipline known as archaeoastronomy. This fascinating field acts as a bridge connecting the hard data of astronomy with the cultural context of archaeology. It employs a powerful new toolkit from high-precision theodolites that can measure alignments down to a fraction of a degree, to sophisticated planetarium software that can roll back the celestial clock thousands of years to test a simple but profound question: were these ancient alignments intentional? The answer, across countless sites around the globe, is a resounding yes, revealing a depth of intentionality and precision that we are only just beginning to fully appreciate. While our focus is on cities, the principles of celestial alignment extend to other monumental structures, and perhaps the most famous example is Stonehenge on the Salisbury Plain in England. Though not an urban center, its grand design follows the same cosmic logic. The entire arrangement of its massive sarsen stones is engineered to frame the rising sun on the summer solstice and its setting on the winter solstice, creating a breathtaking spectacle of light and shadow that would have drawn people from across the region. This suggests that the impulse to mark these celestial turning points was not an isolated phenomenon but part of a broader, shared human tradition of using megalithic architecture to pin the heavens to the earth, creating a permanent communal calendar in stone. This detective work takes us to some of the world's most enigmatic sites. High on the arid plains of Peru, the vast Nazca lines have long baffled researchers. These giant geoglyphs, depicting animals and geometric shapes, are only fully visible from the air. Some archaeoastronomical theories propose that these immense lines did not just point to the stars, but may have functioned as ritual pathways for the stars. Certain lines appear to align with the rising and setting points of important stars and constellations during key times of the year, suggesting the desert itself was transformed into a vast astronomical map, with processions perhaps walking the constellations into existence as part of a ceremonial interaction with the cosmos. The scale of this celestial planning is truly humbling. At the magnificent temple complex of Angkor Wat in Cambodia, researchers have discovered that its central towers are not merely arranged for aesthetic symmetry. Their layout seems to correlate with the draconic cycle of the Moon-An complex 18.6-year cycle that governs the occurrence of eclipses. For a civilization that deeply understood cyclical time, tracking such a long and precise pattern and then encoding it into the very foundation of their most sacred structure demonstrates a staggering long-term commitment to astronomical observation and its physical expression. This wasn't just marking the annual solar cycle, it was building a prophecy in stone, a permanent record of the moon's most dramatic celestial performances. One of the most important contributions of archaeoastronomy has been to correct a historical misconception. When early surveyors found that an ancient temple's alignment was off by a degree or two from a significant star or solstice point, they often attributed it to error or primitive methods on the part of the builders. We now understand that the culprit is far more likely to be the precession of the equinoxes. This is a slow wobble in Earth's axis that causes the position of the stars to shift very gradually over a cycle of about 26,000 years. A temple built to perfectly align with a specific star 3,000 years ago would, today, appear to be misaligned because that star no longer rises in precisely the same spot. What looks like an error to us is actually proof of the builders' incredible accuracy for their time. Their work was perfect for the celestial clock they were reading. This field has fundamentally changed our understanding of these ancient urban plans. They were far more than collections of buildings. They were accurate, long-term astronomical records. A city's main avenue wasn't just a processional route, it was a fixed meridian line. A temple gateway wasn't just an entrance, it was a permanent foresight for tracking a planet's path. In an era before paper or digital storage, these civilizations encoded their most vital knowledge, the timing of seasons, the patterns of the gods, the myths of creation, directly into the landscape. They built their libraries not of parchment but of stone and earth, ensuring that their cosmic knowledge would be preserved, read, and revered for millennia, waiting for us to finally learn how to read their language of alignment. While the specific celestial bodies and myths that captivated ancient cultures varied widely from one civilization to the next, the underlying impulse to build their world in the image of the heavens reveals a set of deep, shared human yearnings that transcended continents and oceans. The Egyptians, for instance, fixed their gaze upon the unwavering circumpolar stars and the life-giving rhythms of Sirius, seeking eternal order in the seemingly immutable northern sky. Meanwhile, halfway across the world, the Maya became consummate trackers of Venus, its predictable yet dramatic cycles of disappearance and reappearance governing their calendars of warfare and royal ceremony. One culture looked for constancy, the other for a divine pulse of death and rebirth, yet both were driven by a fundamental desire to impose a sacred order upon the unpredictable chaos of human existence, to feel connected to the deities they believed controlled their fate, and to represent the cyclical, rather than linear, nature of time itself in the very stones of their cities. This beautiful diversity of expression within a unified cosmic theme can be seen in the way different cultures integrated astral myths into their public spaces. In ancient Greece, the city of Athens wove celestial storytelling directly into the heart of its civic life, the agora. This bustling marketplace and social hub wasn't just a random collection of buildings. Its layout and the placement of its temples and statues often reflected the popular myths of the constellations. The placement of a sanctuary dedicated to a specific hero or god might align with the perceived direction of their celestial counterpart, turning a simple stroll through the city into a walk through a star map of their most cherished legends. It was urban planning as mythological narrative, designed to surround the citizen with constant, subtle reminders of their divine heritage and the epic stories written in the stars above. Traveling to the heart of North America, we find a profoundly different environment and culture expressing the very same universal principle. The great city of Cahokia, which flourished near the Mississippi River over 1,000 years ago, featured a sprawling complex of enormous earthen mounds. The largest of these, Monk's Mound, towered over the central plaza. Archaeoastronomical studies have revealed that the entire layout of this grand plaza and its surrounding mounds was carefully engineered to function as a massive solar calendar. Key mounds are positioned to mark the sunrise at the equinoxes and solstices, casting specific shadows or creating alignments that would have signaled these critical turning points of the year to the entire community. For the people of Cahokia, who did not build in stone but in earth, the cosmos was mirrored not in towering pyramids but in the very shape of the landscape itself, molded by human hands to track the sun's journey and harmonize their society with the agricultural cycle. What makes this global phenomenon so extraordinary is that it emerged in cultures that were, as far as we know, completely isolated from one another. There was no ancient internet, no transoceanic exchange of architectural blueprints between the Maya and the Chinese. Yet, from the jungles of Cambodia to the deserts of Egypt, from the plains of the American Midwest to the islands of Greece, we find this recurring theme, the city as a mirror of the cosmos. This points to something far deeper than cultural diffusion. It suggests a universal human impulse, a shared cognitive pattern hardwired into our species. Perhaps it stems from a fundamental human need to find patterns and meaning in the world around us, to project our stories onto the vast, mysterious canvas of the night sky, and then to bring that sense of wonder and order back down to earth, creating a home that feels sacred, familiar, and purposefully placed within the grand scheme of the universe. This diversity of methods, from stellar alignments to solar markers, from stone pyramids to earthen mounds, only serves to enrich our understanding. It shows us that celestial urbanism was not a single, monolithic practice but a brilliant, global symphony of ideas, with each culture composing its own unique movement using the local instruments of its beliefs, its environment, and the particular slice of the sky it called its own. While the spiritual and symbolic dimensions of these cosmic cities are profoundly compelling, it's crucial to understand that these alignments were far more than just acts of devotion or political theater. They were brilliant feats of pragmatic engineering that delivered immense, tangible benefits essential for daily survival and societal prosperity. This celestial blueprint was, in its own way, a sophisticated form of ancient technology, a system designed to harness the predictable rhythms of the universe to solve the most pressing challenges of urban life. The harmony they sought with the heavens translated directly into harmony within the community, proving that the sacred and the practical were two sides of the same coin. One of the most immediate advantages was in the realm of agriculture, the very foundation of these early civilizations. In Mesopotamia, the towering ziggurats were not just symbolic stairways to heaven for the priests, they functioned as the world's first advanced observatories. Priest astronomers would ascend their stepped sides to precisely track the movements of the sun, moon, and stars against the vast desert horizon. This wasn't an abstract academic exercise. By noting the exact day when a specific star cluster like the Pleiades first appeared in the pre-dawn sky, they could accurately predict the coming seasonal rains and the ideal time to plant crops. In an economy utterly dependent on irrigation from the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, this celestial calendar was a matter of life and death. It allowed for the meticulous coordination of water management, planting, and harvesting across the entire region, turning the challenge of feeding a dense urban population from a gamble into a predictable science. The orientation of the cities themselves provided everyday practical benefits that we would now call sustainable design. Take the ancient Indus Valley city of Mohenjo-Daro with its remarkably modern-looking grid plan. This wasn't an arbitrary design choice. By aligning their main streets and buildings precisely to the cardinal directions, the city's planners harnessed the power of the sun and wind for natural climate control. The alignment optimized sunlight exposure, helping to dry bricks, warm homes in the cooler months, and naturally sanitize streets. Perhaps even more ingeniously, this grid system facilitated an advanced and highly efficient drainage network. The carefully sloped streets channeled wastewater away from residential areas and into covered brick sewers, a critical feature for maintaining public health in a densely populated city. Furthermore, this orderly grid made navigation intuitive for both residents and the traders who arrived from distant lands, turning the city into a thriving, well-organized hub of commerce and cultural exchange. This holistic approach meant that a single architectural decision could serve multiple purposes simultaneously. A temple gateway aligned to the winter solstice sunrise was a powerful religious symbol, marking the rebirth of the sun god. But for the farmer in the fields, that same sliver of light blazing through the gateway was a clear, unmistakable signal that the shortest day of the year had passed and that the slow march toward spring had begun. It was a public, communal clock and calendar that required no written language or special device to understand. The city itself became an instrument, its monumental architecture functioning as a giant, immovable sundial and astronomical computer that everyone could read. This seamless integration of cosmic symbolism with down-to-earth utility highlights a truly sophisticated worldview, one that saw human well-being as inextricably linked to the natural and celestial environment. In an age before fossil fuels and electric lighting, this wisdom ensured that societies could not only survive but flourish for centuries, a powerful lesson in long-term resilience and sustainable planning that our modern, often disconnected urban landscapes are only beginning to relearn. This profound connection between myth and masonry transformed entire cities into vast, open-air theaters, where the very streets and buildings became the stage for an endless reenactment of a culture's most sacred stories. It was a form of immersive storytelling on a grand scale, designed not just to be observed but to be lived and walked through every single day. The urban plan itself became the script, and the citizens were both the audience and the actors, performing their daily lives within a landscape that was quite literally a piece of living mythology. This was urban design at its most powerful, functioning as a continuous, three-dimensional lesson in cosmology, morality, and collective identity. We can see this principle brought to life with breathtaking complexity in the ancient city of Varanasi, one of the world's oldest continuously inhabited cities, nestled on the banks of the Ganges River in India. Varanasi is not merely a city that contains temples. The entire city is considered a massive temple to the god Shiva, the lord of destruction and regeneration. Its design is a direct physical manifestation of the myth of Shiva's cosmic dance of creation, the Tandava. The city's famed ghats, the long, sweeping stairways that lead down to the sacred river, are far more than just functional access points. Each one is symbolically charged, representing a different stage in the endless cycle of cosmic time, from creation to preservation to dissolution. Pilgrims moving along these steps are not just taking a bath, they are symbolically moving through the very rhythms of the universe itself. The city's labyrinthine lanes, which are said to form a giant trident, the weapon of Shiva, guide the devotee on a spiritual journey, making every errand, every visit to the market, a small part of a much larger, eternal narrative. To live in Varanasi is to be a constant participant in the dance of Shiva, with the city's layout ensuring that this profound truth is felt with every step taken. Across the globe, in the high Andes of South America, The Inca Empire executed a similar vision of a city as a symbolic landscape, but they used the language of animals and constellations. Their capital, Cusco, was designed in the shape of a giant puma, a sacred animal that symbolized strength and the earthly realm. The fortress temple of Sacsayhuaman, with its zigzagging walls that resembled teeth, formed the head of this great beast, while the confluence of two rivers marked its tail. This was not a vague resemblance, it was a deliberate and precise urban plan, but the symbolism went even deeper, connecting the earthly to the celestial. The Incas saw the dark patches of the Milky Way not as empty space but as constellations, and one of the most important was the Mayu, the celestial river, which was also associated with a great feline. The layout of Cusco and its surrounding sacred sites, known as sects, mirrored the patterns of the Milky Way as it was seen in the dry season, creating a terrestrial map of the heavens. A person walking from the central plaza toward Sacsayhuaman was therefore not just climbing a hill, they were moving from the heart of the Puma city toward its head, and simultaneously tracing a path from a terrestrial point to its celestial counterpart in the galaxy above. This layered symbolism fused the animal world, the human world, and the cosmic world into a single, cohesive whole. The purpose of this intricate mythological coding was far more profound than mere artistic expression. It served as the ultimate engine for cultural cohesion and psychological anchoring. In a world without mass media or standardized education, the city itself became the primary teacher. By simply growing up and navigating these symbolically charged spaces, a young Inca or a child in Varanasi would internalize their culture's creation stories, its values, and its understanding of the universe. They learned their place within a grand, divine order not from a book, but from the very angle of a street, the orientation of a temple, or the shape of their city viewed from a nearby hill. This created an incredibly powerful and resilient sense of collective identity. Everyone, from the highest priest to the lowest farmer, shared a common story that was physically embedded in their environment. This shared narrative provided a deep sense of belonging, purpose, and continuity, linking the present generation to their ancestors and to the gods themselves. The city became a permanent, indestructible monument to a people's mythic past, ensuring that their core beliefs would endure for centuries, guiding behavior and reinforcing social norms through the most powerful medium possible, the lived experience of space. While astronomy provided the precise measurements for aligning cities with the cosmos, another powerful force was at work, weaving a more personal and symbolic layer of meaning into the urban fabric, astrology. It's crucial to distinguish between the two. Where ancient astronomy was the science of observing and predicting the movements of celestial bodies, astrology was the interpretive art of understanding their perceived influence on human affairs and terrestrial events. This belief that the planets and stars directly shaped human destiny didn't just guide personal decisions, it profoundly influenced the very layout of cities, dictating the placement of districts, the orientation of homes, and the symbolism embedded in public art, creating an urban landscape charged with astral significance. The great Hellenistic city of Alexandria, a melting pot of Egyptian, Greek, and Near Eastern knowledge, serves as a perfect example of this astrological infusion. Founded by Alexander the Great and meticulously planned by his architect Dinocrates, the city was a hub for astrological study. Its famous library and scholarly community delved deeply into these practices. This wasn't an abstract pursuit, it manifested physically throughout the city. Mosaics adorning the floors of wealthy homes and public buildings frequently depicted intricate zodiac wheels, mapping the celestial sphere onto the domestic sphere. Even the street names in certain quarters were believed to be influenced by astrological concepts, creating a daily environment where citizens were subtly reminded of the cosmic forces governing their lives. The city itself was seen as a living entity under the influence of a specific horoscope, its fortunes tied to the stars under which it was founded. This tradition of astrological urbanism was not confined to the ancient world. It extended deep into the medieval period in Europe. While the primary focus of a medieval town was its cathedral, the alignment of these sacred structures could sometimes be influenced by more than just solar geometry. Certain churches and chapels were dedicated to saints whose feast days corresponded with significant celestial events, such as the appearance of a particular star or planet. A church dedicated to Saint John the Baptist, for instance, might have its altar positioned to catch the first light of the rising sun around the time of the summer solstice, a date closely associated with his feast day. This created a multi-layered sacred space where the light of the heavens was believed to amplify the divine presence of the saint, blending Christian devotion with an ancient astrological understanding of sacred timing and celestial power. Perhaps the most systematic and enduring application of astrological principles to city planning comes from the Indian subcontinent through the ancient practice of Jyotisha, or Vedic astrology. This is not a superstition but a complex mathematical system integrated into the sacred texts governing architecture, known as Vastu Shastra. According to these principles, the correct orientation of a building's main entrance was not merely a practical concern. It was essential for harnessing positive cosmic energy or avoiding negative influences from the planets. A home's gate might be positioned to face a specific direction based on the owner's birth chart to attract the blessings of a beneficial planet like Jupiter, while avoiding the malefic gaze of Saturn. This practice extended from individual homes to the planning of entire temple towns, where the layout of districts could be influenced by the astrological symbols associated with different professions and social classes, creating an urban horoscope where every element was in harmony with the cosmos. Though these astrological practices were more symbolic and belief-driven than the scientific observations of astronomy, their impact on the historical cityscape is undeniable and profound. They reveal a world view where the macrocosm of the heavens and the microcosm of human life were in constant, intimate dialogue. The placement of a gate, the naming of a street, or the artwork on a floor were all seen as ways to align the fate of the individual and the community with the perceived benevolent forces of the universe. This interplay between deep-seated belief and physical urban form shows us that ancient cities were designed not just for the body, but for the soul and its perceived celestial journey, creating environments where every corner held the potential for a connection to the divine machinery of the stars. Now consider the sheer brilliance behind these achievements. We're talking about cultures that, without the benefit of laser levels or GPS, managed to orient entire cities to a precision that often astounds modern surveyors. How did they do it? Their toolkit was deceptively simple, a masterclass in leveraging basic principles of geometry and physics to solve monumental problems. At the heart of it all was a profound understanding of the sun's movement. The most fundamental and powerful instrument was the gnomon, a simple vertical rod or pillar planted firmly in the ground. This unassuming tool was, in effect, a complete astronomical observatory in one piece. By meticulously tracking the path of its shadow throughout the day, an experienced observer could determine true north and south with remarkable accuracy. They would mark the tip of the shadow at various intervals, and the shortest shadow of the day pointed directly north, defining the local meridian. But the gnomon's utility didn't stop there. By tracking the length of that noon shadow over the course of a year, they could identify the solstices, the days when the shadow was at its longest or shortest. This provided them with an incredibly accurate solar calendar, allowing them to pinpoint the changing of the seasons, a critical piece of knowledge for everything from agriculture to scheduling religious ceremonies. This simple stick was their anchor to the cosmic cycle. The ancient Egyptians refined this principle of shadow tracking to an art form with an instrument known as the merkit. The name itself translates to instrument of knowing, which is beautifully apt. A merk, it was essentially a horizontal bar made from a palm leaf rib with a notch carved into one end. It was used in pairs. An astronomer, known as a horologer or hour watcher, would set up two of these devices aligned north-south. By sighting through the notch of one merkit toward a specific star and using the second to establish a perfect plumb line, they could create an incredibly precise meridian line across the sky. This allowed them to track the transit of stars the moment they crossed this imaginary line with stunning accuracy. This wasn't just for stargazing, it was how they told time at night, dividing the darkness into 12 equal hours. But its most profound application was in foundational surveying. When laying out a new temple, such as those at Karnak or Luxor, priests would use these merkits to orient the entire structure's axis to the rising of a crucial star like Sirius. They were essentially drawing celestial blueprints on the desert floor with nothing but wood, string, and their intimate knowledge of the heavens. On the other side of the world, the Maya developed their own ingenious, low-tech solutions for high-precision astronomy. Lacking the complex metal tools of the Old World, they relied on natural materials. One of their most effective methods involved the use of two crossed sticks, a tool that seems almost too simple for the task. An astronomer would position one stick vertically and another horizontally across it, creating a simple sighting device. By aligning the notch where the sticks crossed with a specific stone marker on the distant horizon and a star rising behind it, they could track the star's gradual drift over the night. This method was particularly effective for observing zenith passages, the days when the sun passes directly overhead, casting no shadow at noon. At their latitude, this happened twice a year, and these dates were of immense importance for their agricultural calendar. The Maya also used these cross sticks from the dark, confining interiors of their observatories, like the Caracol at Chichen Itza. They would peer through narrow, tube-like windows, using the crossed sticks to frame a very specific slice of the sky, allowing them to track the precise movements of Venus against the backdrop of fixed stars with a level of accuracy that still baffles historians today. Measurement over long distances presented another huge challenge. How do you ensure your celestial alignment remains true over the hundreds of meters of a city's main avenue? The answer often lay in the humble measuring cord. Many cultures, including the Egyptians, the builders of Stonehenge, and the Indus Valley civilization, used standardized lengths of rope for their surveys. These cords were often knotted at regular intervals, and the units of measurement were frequently based on the human body. The cubit, the length from the elbow to the tip of the middle finger, the foot, or the fathom, the distance between the fingertips of outstretched arms. Teams of workers would stretch these cords taut, using stakes to mark the line. To ensure the line was perfectly straight, they might use a series of plumb bobs or simply sight along the cord itself. This method, while basic, was extraordinarily effective for translating a short, precisely measured baseline established through astronomical observation into the grand scale of an urban plan. It was a process of scaling up, using geometry to extend a sacred, cosmically derived direction across the entire landscape. We must also appreciate the role of timekeeping in this process. Aligning a building to a solstice sunrise requires knowing exactly when that sunrise will occur. The Chinese, masters of hydrological engineering, developed sophisticated water clocks or clepsydras that could measure time accurately throughout the night. This allowed their astronomers to precisely time the transit of stars and planets. Later, The invention of the south-pointing chariot and the magnetic compass provided them with additional tools for maintaining large-scale cardinal alignments, especially under overcast skies when the stars were not visible. The sheer cumulative effort behind these projects is staggering. We are not talking about a single measurement, but about generations of observers patiently recording data, refining their techniques, and passing this knowledge down through initiations and sacred texts. Their rudimentary tools were in the hands of true experts, capable of achieving accuracies within a single degree. When we account for the slow wobble of Earth's axis known as precession, which has shifted the celestial poles over millennia, we find that their original alignments were often perfect for their time. This combination of simple tools, deep patience, and profound intellectual curiosity allowed them to transform the most abstract cosmic concepts into the enduring, awe-inspiring stone and earthworks that continue to challenge and inspire our understanding of engineering and human potential. Yet for all its sophistication and profound resonance, this ancient art of building cities as mirrors of the cosmos did not last forever. Its gradual decline was not the result of a single event, but a slow, seismic shift in the very bedrock of human thought and belief. The rise of powerful monotheistic religions, particularly Christianity and Islam, introduced a new relationship with the divine. In these faiths, God was omnipresent and transcendent, not confined to specific stars or natural phenomena. The idea of a ruler being a divine king, an essential intermediary whose palace needed to be at the center of a cosmic diagram, began to lose its potency. Power was increasingly derived from God's grace or the consent of the governed, not from an astrological mandate written in the stars. The primary purpose of a city shifted from being a sacred microcosm to being a functional center for trade, administration, and defense, governed by secular authorities rather than priest astronomers. This philosophical transformation was powerfully accelerated by the scientific revolution and the Enlightenment. Visionaries like Copernicus, Galileo, and Newton unveiled a universe governed by immutable physical laws, a grand clockwork mechanism that could be understood through mathematics and observation, not through myth and ritual. This new mechanistic world, you made the old symbolic connections between heaven and earth seem like superstitious relics of a bygone age. The guiding principle for urban planning became rational efficiency, best embodied by the rigid, right-angled gridiron plan. This Euclidean geometry, named for the ancient Greek mathematician, was practical, easy to survey, and facilitated the quick subdivision and sale of land, a perfect reflection of an emerging capitalist world focused on commerce and property rights. The organic, symbolically charged layouts of the past were often seen as messy, irrational, and impediments to progress. This is not to say that every last trace of the old cosmic thinking vanished overnight. Intriguing echoes persisted, often in new and surprising forms. The layout of Washington, D.C., for instance, planned in the late 18th century, is a fascinating hybrid. While its broad avenues follow a rational grid, the placement of its key monuments and the symbolic numerology embedded in its design are replete with Masonic symbolism and references to celestial principles. The Founding Fathers, many of whom were Freemasons, infused the new capital with a layer of esoteric geometry that harkened back to the ancient idea of a city aligned with enlightened ideals, if not specific stars. Similarly, the Baroque city plans of the Renaissance, with their long, dramatic avenues focusing on palaces or churches, replaced the axis mundi with a new focal point, the power of the state or the church, and the awe-inspiring perspective of the individual human viewer. Perhaps the most tragic erasure of celestial urbanism occurred through the brutal process of colonization. European powers, armed with their gridiron plans and a conviction of their own cultural superiority, systematically overwrote the existing urban fabrics of indigenous peoples. The sacred layouts of Mesoamerican cities, with their precise solstitial alignments, were buried under Spanish colonial grids centered on a church and a central plaza. In North America, the complex earthworks and solar observatories of mound-building cultures were plowed under to make way for the relentless, impersonal surveyor's grid that still defines much of the American landscape today. This was more than just a change in architecture. It was a deliberate act of cultural and spiritual domination, severing people from their cosmological roots and imposing a new foreign order upon the land. And yet, the human desire to find meaning and harmony in our built environment has never truly disappeared. It has simply found new outlets. The ancient Chinese practice of Feng Shui has experienced a major revival in global architecture, influencing the design of everything from skyscrapers in Hong Kong to suburban homes in California, as people seek to create spaces that feel balanced and positive. The principles of sacred geometry, the use of specific ratios and shapes believed to possess inherent harmonic qualities, continue to inspire architects designing churches, meditation centers, and even public spaces. This enduring legacy suggests that while we may no longer believe a city must mirror the Pleiades, we still harbor a deep, intuitive understanding that our surroundings affect our well-being. The modern sense of urban alienation, the feeling of being disconnected and adrift in concrete jungles that lack any sense of sacredness or purpose, might be the direct result of this great forgetting. It prompts a compelling question. In our pursuit of pure functionality, have we lost something essential? The decline of celestial urbanism reflects our shifting worldviews, but its enduring legacy offers a powerful invitation to reintegrate symbolic meaning, natural harmony, and a sense of the cosmic back into the way we plan our cities, not for the gods, but for the holistic well-being of the human spirit. Yet for all the focus on our distant past, this story of cosmic cities is far from over. A quiet but powerful revolution is unfolding today, as architects, planners, and communities look back to these ancient principles not out of nostalgia, but as a source of profound wisdom for building a better future. We are witnessing a fascinating modern rediscovery, a conscious effort to revive the core idea that our built environment should be in conversation with the natural and cosmic world, not isolated from it. This isn't about recreating ziggurats or building new stone circles. It's about adapting an ancient, holistic mindset to tackle the most pressing challenges of the 21st century, from the climate crisis to urban loneliness. This movement takes many forms, often under names that speak to a renewed harmony with nature. The philosophy of biomimicry, for instance, urges designers to emulate nature's time-tested patterns and strategies. Imagine a city that functions like a forest managing stormwater through natural absorption rather than concrete drains, regulating temperature through passive solar design and green roofs, and operating on energy flows that mimic efficient ecosystems. Similarly, the eco-city movement seeks to create urban settlements that have a minimal environmental footprint, often by integrating renewable energy, local food production, and waste recycling systems in a way that honors the cyclical patterns our ancestors once saw in the stars. Even the popular New Urbanism design approach, with its emphasis on walkable, human-scaled neighborhoods and mixed-use communities, echoes the ancient desire for a more integrated and socially cohesive urban life, a stark contrast to the sprawling, car-dependent suburbs that can often feel disconnected from any sense of place or rhythm. Leading this charge are dedicated scholars like Italian archaeoastronomer Giulio Magli, who passionately advocates for recognizing and preserving the celestial alignments of ancient sites as a vital part of our global cultural heritage. His work goes beyond mere academic interest. It's a fight to protect these fragile, open-air libraries of astronomical knowledge from the threats of light pollution, unchecked development, and simply being forgotten. By using modern technology like satellite imagery and three-dimensional simulation software, researchers can now demonstrate the intentionality behind these alignments with undeniable clarity, providing a solid scientific foundation for this revival and helping us appreciate the incredible sophistication of pre-modern minds. We can already see these principles taking physical shape in inspiring projects around the globe. Take the international community of Auroville in India, founded in 1968 with the vision of human unity. Its city plan is a masterpiece of symbolic geometry, laid out in the shape of a galactic spiral. Its central piece area, the Matrimandir, is a stunning golden sphere designed to capture a single beam of sunlight at precisely noon through an opening at its top, illuminating an inner crystal chamber and creating a powerful, contemplative space centered on light itself. The entire township is planned with a deep consideration for solar orientation, natural ventilation, and green belts, creating a living experiment in sustainable and spiritually conscious living. This modern revival is ultimately about learning from the past, not living in it. The goal is not to worship the sun as a god, but to understand and respect our biological connection to its cycles. We now have a deep scientific understanding of circadian rhythms, the internal biological clocks that govern our sleep, hormone production, and overall well-being, all of which are exquisitely tuned to the 24-hour cycle of light and dark. Modern city life, with its artificial light at all hours and buildings that seal us off from natural daylight, can severely disrupt these rhythms, contributing to sleep disorders, depression, and chronic stress. The new celestial urbanism seeks to reverse this by designing buildings that maximize access to natural light, creating public spaces that encourage people to be outdoors, and even considering the impact of artificial light pollution on our health and our ability to see the starry sky above. The potential applications are both vast and deeply practical. Imagine a school designed so that classrooms are flooded with the energizing light of the morning sun, helping students focus and learn. Picture a hospital where patient rooms have easy access to natural daylight and views of green spaces, proven to accelerate healing and reduce pain medication needs. Envision entire neighborhoods planned to be walkable and bikeable, reducing reliance on cars and fossil fuels, while also fostering the community connections that are so often missing in modern life. This is the true promise of the revival, to create urban environments that don't just reduce our carbon footprint, but actively enhance our physical health, mental clarity, and sense of wonder, reconnecting us to the cosmic interconnectedness that our ancestors understood not through science, but through sacred observation. Of course, the pursuit of these celestial connections, as captivating as it is, does not come without its fair share of healthy skepticism and academic debate. It's crucial that we step back for a moment and acknowledge that not every researcher is convinced that ancient city planners were always looking skyward with a blueprint in hand. A significant school of thought argues that we, in our modern enthusiasm, might be seeing patterns and intentions where none exist, falling into the trap of what's known as pareidolia, the human tendency to find meaningful shapes in random patterns, like seeing animals in cloud. When you have thousands of structures scattered across a landscape and a vast sky full of stars, the laws of statistical probability suggest that some compelling alignments are bound to occur purely by chance. A temple doorway might frame the rising sun on a specific day, but was that the brilliant design of a priest astronomer, or simply a fortunate accident of its placement? Without concrete evidence, the line between coincidence and intention can become dangerously blurred. This critical perspective is championed by respected voices in the field, like astronomer Edwin Krupp, the longtime director of the Griffith Observatory in Los Angeles. Krupp has consistently cautioned against what he terms astroarchaeology, an approach where well-meaning researchers sometimes project their own modern, scientific worldview onto ancient cultures. He warns us against the temptation to view every alignment as a precise astronomical observatory, reminding us that the ancient mind operated within a completely different framework, one where myth, ritual, and practical necessity were deeply intertwined and not always separated into the distinct categories we use today. A building might be aligned to a solstice sunrise not to conduct a scientific measurement, but because that day was the feast of a particular god, and the dramatic light show was a form of divine theater, a way to awe the populace and reinforce religious power. Interpreting it solely as an astronomical calculator might miss its richer, more complex cultural meaning entirely. Further complicating the picture is the historical legacy of Eurocentric bias in archaeology and history. For centuries, the grand achievements of cultures like the Greeks, Romans, and Egyptians were celebrated and studied in depth, while the sophisticated knowledge systems of indigenous and non-Western societies were often dismissed as primitive superstition. A classic example is the long-standing reluctance of earlier scholars to credit the Maya with advanced astronomical prowess, often attributing the accuracy of their calendar to luck or outside influence rather than their own meticulous observations. This bias meant that the celestial connections in places like Mesoamerica, Sub-Saharan Africa, or North America were frequently overlooked or explained away, while similar findings in Europe were given more serious consideration. It's only through more recent, respectful collaboration with living cultural descendants and a more inclusive global perspective that we are beginning to fully appreciate the universal depth of this celestial connection. So how do we navigate between the thrilling possibility of ancient cosmic blueprints and the sobering reality of coincidental patterns? The answer lies in a rigorous, cross-disciplinary approach. A compelling case for intentional celestial planning cannot rest on alignment data alone. It requires a convergence of evidence from multiple fields. Archaeologists must unearth physical clues like artifacts inscribed with star charts or ceremonial objects buried along astronomical axes. Textual scholars and epigraphers need to translate inscriptions, myths, and codices that explicitly describe the importance of certain stars or celestial events to the culture's identity and rituals. Ethnographers can work with living traditions and oral histories passed down through generations, which often preserve ancient knowledge about the significance of places and landscapes. It is only when the astronomical alignment, the archaeological context, and the cultural narrative all point in the same direction that we can confidently say a city was truly modeled on the stars. This rigorous skepticism is not a cynical attempt to dismantle wonder. On the contrary, it is the very thing that protects the integrity of these ancient mysteries. It acts as a necessary filter, separating solid, evidence-based theories from fanciful pseudoscience that can ultimately diminish the real achievements of these cultures. By demanding a higher standard of proof, by insisting on cultural context, and by embracing multiple perspectives, we ensure that our fascination leads us not to simplistic answers, but to a far more nuanced and profound understanding. We learn to appreciate that the relationship between ancient people and the sky was not a single note of pure science, but a complex chord resonating with myth, power, spirituality, and a deep, enduring human desire to find our place in the cosmos. To truly unravel the secrets of these sky-aligned cities, we can't rely on a single lens. The full picture only comes into focus when we bring together a whole team of experts, each holding a different piece of the puzzle. This is the power of interdisciplinary study, where historians, astronomers, anthropologists, and architects pool their knowledge to see what any one of them might miss alone. A historian can unearth an ancient text describing a solstice ceremony, but it takes an astronomer to calculate whether the main temple's doorway actually frames the sunrise on that exact day. An anthropologist might decode a symbol representing a constellation in a local myth, but it takes an architect to analyze the spatial logic of the city's layout to see if that pattern is repeated on the ground. It's this collaborative detective work that transforms a curious alignment from a coincidence into a confirmed, intentional feature of the urban plan. A perfect example of this powerful synthesis is the ongoing research at Choco Canyon in New Mexico. For decades, scholars have marveled at the monumental great houses and mysterious kivas built by the ancestral Pueblo people. The question was whether their precise geometry was cosmically inspired. By combining techniques from wildly different fields, researchers found their answer. Dendrochronologists, who are experts in dating wood through tree ring analysis, provided the exact construction dates for the roof beams. Archaeoastronomers then took those precise dates and used sophisticated stellar software to recreate the night sky as it appeared over Chaco 1,000 years ago. What they discovered was breathtaking. Key walls and corridors in buildings like Casa Rinconada and Pueblo Bonito are aligned to capture the light of the summer solstice sunrise and the lunar minor standstill and complex 18.6-year cycle of the moon. This wasn't just a village, it was a sophisticated celestial calendar constructed in sandstone. This blended approach consistently reveals that these ancient cities were never designed for just one purpose. We can no longer look at a Maya city like Tikal and simply call it a royal capital. Through an interdisciplinary lens, we see it was that, but also so much more. It was a precise calendar, its pyramids acting as giant gnomon markers to track solar cycles. It was a ritual space where the alignment of causeways facilitated sacred processions timed to Venus's appearance as the morning star. And it was a powerful political statement, its imposing architecture and cosmic alignments serving to legitimize the divine authority of its rulers, demonstrating their unique ability to commune with the gods and maintain the world's order. Each layer of understanding, provided by a different field of study, adds depth and color to our appreciation of these places as holistic centers of knowledge. This fundamentally changes our perception of ancient ingenuity. It shows us that these societies did not compartmentalize knowledge into separate boxes labeled science, art, and religion. For a Maya priest astronomer, calculating the Venus cycle was a scientific endeavor, an artistic pursuit to create a beautiful and meaningful calendar, and a profound religious act to please the gods all at the same time. Their world was one of integrated, holistic understanding, where every discipline informed and enriched the others. This stands in stark contrast to our modern era of intense specialization, where an expert in one field might know very little about another, even when they are studying the very same thing. Perhaps the greatest lesson we can take from this interdisciplinary model is how it can inform our own future, both in education and in planning our modern cities. By breaking down the artificial walls between subjects, we can foster a generation of thinkers who are synthesizers, who can connect dots across different domains to arrive at more innovative and humane solutions. Imagine an urban planner working with a psychologist to design spaces that positively impact mental well-being, or an engineer collaborating with an ecologist to create infrastructure that works in harmony with natural systems, much like the celestial cities of old. The ancient world's masterpieces were born from a unified vision of knowledge, and by relearning that approach, we might just find the inspiration to build our own future with the same wisdom, wonder, and profound connection to the world around us. While the grand pyramids of Giza and the sprawling avenues of Teotihuacan rightly capture our imagination, the true depth of this celestial connection is revealed in quieter, lesser-known sites scattered across the globe. These places, often overlooked in popular histories, tell a story just as profound, a story of a universal human impulse that found unique expression in every corner of the ancient world. Venturing beyond the famous names, we discover a hidden tapestry of cosmic architecture, where even the most humble structures sometimes whisper secrets of the stars. High on the arid coast of Peru lies the sacred city of Caral, a site of staggering antiquity that flourished over 4,600 years ago, making it one of the oldest urban centers in the entire Americas. This was a sophisticated metropolis contemporary with the Great Pyramids of Egypt, yet its people built not in stone but with packed earth and reed. Despite this seemingly modest construction, their astronomical knowledge was anything but primitive. The entire layout of Caral is a masterclass in celestial planning. Its central circular sunken plaza and the surrounding monumental platform mounds are not haphazardly placed. Archaeoastronomical studies suggest that these structures were carefully aligned with the rising and setting of specific stars and constellations that held deep significance for their culture, particularly those visible in the clear desert sky during the winter months. The positioning of these mounds appears to create sightlines for tracking celestial events that would have governed their agricultural cycle and religious calendar, proving that the desire to embed cosmic order into urban design is as ancient as city building itself. Across the Pacific, in the humid jungles of Cambodia, the temple complex of Precon offers another stunning, yet often missed, example. While the nearby Angkor Wat receives most of the attention, Precon is a sprawling labyrinth of stone halls and galleries that hides a precise celestial secret. This 12th century temple was not just a Buddhist monastery and university, it was also a carefully calibrated astronomical instrument. Its primary east-west axis is perfectly aligned so that during the equinoxes, the setting sun shines directly down the entire length of the main gallery, flooding the sacred inner spaces with a dramatic golden light. This precise alignment transforms the entire temple into a seasonal timekeeper, marking the moment of perfect balance between day and night. It's a powerful reminder that celestial principles were woven into the very fabric of spiritual life, creating a direct, awe-inspiring dialogue between the devotee, the architecture, and the cosmos. Journeying to the heart of southern Africa, the magnificent stone ruins of Great Zimbabwe present a compelling case for celestial awareness in a region often excluded from early discussions of archaeoastronomy. This medieval city, built by the Shona people between the 11th and 15th centuries, features massive, curvilinear walls constructed without mortar, an incredible feat of engineering. While its exact astronomical significance is still a rich area of study, some compelling theories point to intentional lunar alignments. The Great Enclosure, with its iconic conical tower, may have been designed to track the movements of the moon. Certain openings and architectural features within the complex appear to frame specific lunar risings and settings, which would have been critically important for a society that likely used a lunar calendar to schedule rituals, agricultural activities, and community gatherings. This suggests a sophisticated understanding of the night sky that was seamlessly integrated into the most important political and ceremonial center of the kingdom. Even the soaring Gothic cathedrals of medieval Europe, which we often view purely as monuments to Christian faith, secretly harbor this ancient pagan love of celestial alignment. The Cathedral of Chartres in France, a masterpiece of 12th century architecture, is renowned for its stained glass and sacred geometry, but look closer and you find the heavens etched into its floor. A famous labyrinth inlaid in the nave is not merely a spiritual walking path. Some scholars propose its design encodes astronomical knowledge, possibly related to lunar cycles. More overtly, the entire orientation of the cathedral follows the common Christian tradition of aligning the altar in the east toward the rising sun and the direction of Jerusalem. This practice, which ensured the morning light would illuminate the altar during Mass, is a direct continuation of the ancient tradition of solar alignment, repurposed for a new theology but rooted in the same reverence for the life-giving sun. From the desert plains of Peru to the stone enclosures of Zimbabwe and the Gothic arches of France, these diverse examples shatter any notion that celestial urbanism was the exclusive domain of a few advanced or isolated cultures. Instead, they paint a picture of a shared human heritage, a universal language of stone and sky spoken in countless dialects across millennia. Each culture looked up at the same stars but saw different stories, different gods, and different practical needs, which they then translated into their unique architectural vernacular. This global chorus underscores a profound truth. The impulse to connect our earthly home to the celestial realm is a fundamental part of who we are. It invites us to look at every ancient site, no matter how small or overlooked, with new eyes and a sense of wonder, recognizing that each one holds a piece of this vast, interconnected human endeavor to find our place in the cosmos. To truly grasp why ancient cultures went to such extraordinary lengths to align their cities with the heavens, we must look beyond the stones and the star charts and into the very heart of their worldviews, their deepest philosophical and theological beliefs. This practice was never just about technical precision. It was the physical manifestation of a profound understanding of the universe and humanity's place within it. Different civilizations, separated by vast distances, arrived at a remarkably similar conclusion: that the cosmos was a living, intelligent, and ordered entity, and that the highest purpose of human endeavor was to replicate that divine order here on Earth, creating a sacred resonance between the macrocosm above and the microcosm below. In the Western tradition, we find one of the earliest and most influential expressions of this idea in Plato's dialogue, the Timaeus. Here, Plato describes the cosmos not as a random void, but as a single living creature, a perfect, rational, and spherical being he calls the world soul. This divine entity was crafted by a benevolent demiurge according to eternal and perfect forms. For Plato, and for the countless philosophers and planners he inspired, the ideal city must therefore be a reflection of this cosmic animal. Its layout, its laws, and its social structure should strive to emulate the harmony, proportion, and reason inherent in the universe itself. A well-ordered city became a living, breathing entity in its own right, a small world soul that resonated in sympathy with the large one, fostering justice, balance, and wisdom among its citizens. This philosophical blueprint provided the intellectual foundation for later visions of ideal cities, from the Renaissance to the modern era, all seeking to impose a divine, rational order onto human society. This concept of the city as a microcosm finds perhaps its most detailed and practical application in the vast textual traditions of India. Hindu texts like the Vishnudharmatara Purana and the Vastu Shastras are not merely architectural manuals. They are elaborate theological doctrines that detail the process of building as an act of cosmic replication. According to these texts, before a single stone is laid, the land must be purified and the plan of the building must be drawn as a mandala, a sacred diagram representing the universe. The most important of these is the Vastu Purusha Mandala, which depicts the cosmos as a square occupied by a cosmic giant, with the supreme deity at its center and lesser gods occupying the parts of his body. The temple or the city built upon this grid is quite literally built upon the body of the cosmos. Every aspect of its construction, from the orientation of the gates to the proportions of the halls, is dictated by this sacred geometry. The act of building becomes a yagna, a holy sacrifice and a ritual of creation, meant to attract divine energy and maintain the balance between the human and the celestial realms. Meanwhile, in China, a different but parallel philosophical system was guiding the hand of the urban planner. Taoist philosophy, with its core principle of the Tao, the undefinable, underlying natural order of the universe, emphasized the critical importance of harmony between human actions and heavenly patterns. This concept of harmony was practically applied through the arts of Feng Shui, which literally translates to wind and water. Feng Shui was the science of aligning homes, tombs, and cities with the unseen currents of cosmic energy, or Kai, that flow through the landscape and the heavens. A city designed in accordance with these principles would be positioned to receive beneficial Kai, ensuring health, prosperity, and stability. It involved a complex understanding of the 5 elements, the yin and yang balance, and the astrological influences of the stars. The goal was to create an environment where human life could unfold in effortless accord with the Tao, like a leaf floating on a perfectly calm river. This was the ultimate expression of Wu-Wei, or effortless action, achieved through meticulous design. Across these diverse traditions, from Greek philosophy to Hindu theology to Taoist thought, a common set of virtues emerges as the ultimate goal of this celestial urbanism. The primary purpose was to cultivate balance, to create a societal and spatial equilibrium that mirrored the stable, predictable movements of the heavens. It was an exercise in humility, a constant physical reminder that human beings are not the masters of the universe but participants in a much larger, divine system. And above all, it was designed to inspire reverence, to turn the entire urban environment into a continuous act of worship where a simple walk down a main avenue became a spiritual practice, reminding citizens of the sacred order that underpinned all of reality. This profound philosophical depth completely transforms our understanding of what urban planning meant to these cultures. It was never merely a branch of civil engineering concerned with drainage, defense, and traffic flow. It was a spiritual discipline, a high art form whose ultimate aim was nothing less than the soul of the community. The planners were not just engineers, they were theologians, philosophers, and artists working in the medium of space and stone. They understood that the environment we inhabit shapes our thoughts, our behaviors, and our very consciousness. By building cities that were attuned to the cosmos, they were consciously designing spaces that would nurture not just the body, but the mind and the spirit, fostering a profound sense of connection, meaning, and peace for everyone who lived within their celestial blueprint. This deliberate cosmic choreography of urban space was one of the most powerful tools a ruler could wield, transforming abstract claims of divine right into an undeniable physical reality for every single citizen. The city itself became a permanent propaganda piece, a three-dimensional argument for the established social order. By placing his palace at the exact point of the axis Mundi, the ruler wasn't just choosing a nice spot with a good view. He was positioning himself as the literal linchpin of the universe, the essential conduit through which celestial power flowed to nourish and protect the earthly realm. His physical residence at the cosmic center made him the human embodiment of the world pillar, and to challenge his authority was not merely a political act, it was a cosmic crime, an attempt to destabilize the very order of creation itself. We can see this principle operating with stunning clarity in the Aztec capital of Tenochtitlan. The magnificent Templo Maya, with its twin temples to Tlaloc and Huitzilopochtli, was the undeniable heart of the city and the entire empire. Radiating out from this sacred center were the districts where the elite lived: the nobles, the priests, the veteran warriors. Their homes were positioned along the primary ceremonial avenues, the most cosmically charged real estate in the city. Conversely, the commoners, the farmers, the artisans, and the traders lived in the outlying neighborhoods, the calpuli, which were aligned with the less significant parts of the celestial map. Your address was a direct reflection of your social and spiritual status. This wasn't a result of random urban drift. It was a meticulously designed hierarchy, written in stone and street layout, that constantly reminded everyone of their fixed place in a divinely sanctioned universe. This spatial encoding of power served a dual purpose. On one hand, it was a brilliant mechanism of social control, naturalizing inequality. The vast gap between the emperor's wealth and the commoner's poverty wasn't presented as an injustice. It was framed as a simple fact of the cosmos, as natural and inevitable as the sun being brighter than the stars. To aspire to a higher station was as futile as a minor star wishing to become the sun. This ideology, physically built into the environment, discouraged upheaval and reinforced a stable, if rigid, social structure. Yet, to view this solely as a tool of oppression misses a crucial part of the picture. This same cosmic design also forged an incredibly powerful sense of collective identity and cultural unity. While the emperor alone could ascend the temple pyramid to perform the highest rituals, the entire population participated in the public ceremonies that unfolded in the vast plazas below. During a festival, a commoner standing in the designated sacred space, watching the sun align with a specific temple doorway, would feel a profound connection to their community, their gods, and the cosmic cycle. They were participating in something far larger than themselves. The city's design provided shared landmarks, shared rituals, and a shared story that bound everyone together, from the highest to the lowest, into a single people with a common destiny. The urban plan offered a trade-off. It justified your place in a hierarchy, but it also gave you a guaranteed, meaningful place within a grand, cosmic narrative. This ancient interplay between power, cosmology, and urban design is not some forgotten relic. We can see its echoes all around us in the modern world. Consider the design of national capitals. The sprawling National Mall in Washington, D.C., with the Capitol building at one end and the Lincoln Memorial at the other, creates a powerful central axis that is meant to inspire awe and reinforce the ideals of the state. The immense scale of government buildings can make an individual feel small, reinforcing the power of the institution. Similarly, the way modern cities are often divided by economic class, with wealthy neighborhoods occupying the geographically desirable high ground and less affluent communities clustered in the less desirable low-lying or industrial areas, is a modern form of spatial hierarchy. While not explicitly justified by astrology, these divisions still send a powerful message about who holds power and what parts of the city are considered most valuable. The enduring lesson from these ancient celestial cities is that urban planning is never neutral. The way we design our spaces directly shapes our social relationships, our sense of self, and our access to opportunity. The ancient rulers understood this intimately and used it to their advantage. The challenge for us today is to recognize these invisible forces at work in our own cities and to consciously choose designs that foster not control and separation, but equity, connection, and a shared sense of belonging for everyone. What's truly remarkable is that this celestial blueprint wasn't just spiritually profound. It was a masterclass in environmental sustainability long before the term even existed. These ancient planners understood something we are only now urgently relearning, that true resilience comes from working in concert with natural cycles, not dominating them. By aligning their cities to the sun, stars, and seasons, they were tapping into a free, endless source of energy and regulation, creating urban environments that were inherently efficient, healthy, and astonishingly adaptive. The Maya, for instance, didn't just build their reservoirs to hold water, they engineered them as part of a grand celestial and terrestrial system. Their intricate system of aguadas, or water storage tanks, was carefully positioned and managed in relation to astronomical observations. The appearance of certain stars and star groups in the night sky, particularly the Pleiades, signaled the imminent arrival of the rainy season. This celestial forecast gave them the critical lead time to prepare cleaning catchment areas, directing runoff through carefully sloped causeways, and ensuring every possible drop was captured to sustain their population through the dry months. The city itself functioned as a massive water harvesting instrument, its layout and architecture designed to capture and conserve this most vital resource in perfect sync with the cosmos. This deep integration extended to everyday comfort and health. In the Indus Valley city of Mohenjo-Daro, the strict grid alignment to the cardinal directions was a stroke of genius in passive climate control. The main streets running east-west and north-south were designed to act as wind tunnels, channeling the cool prevailing breezes through the city to provide natural ventilation and relief from the intense heat. Meanwhile, the specific orientation of the buildings maximized winter sun exposure for warmth while providing shading during the scorching summer months, reducing the need for artificial heating and cooling. Their advanced drainage and water supply systems, also aligned to this grid, prevented flooding and waterborne diseases, creating a remarkably hygienic urban environment. This wasn't just architecture, it was a form of bioclimatic design where the city itself became a living, breathing organism that responded intelligently to its environment. Contrast this with the way many modern cities have been built, especially in the last century. The rise of cheap fossil fuels and artificial lighting led to a philosophy of separation from nature. We built glass skyscrapers with sealed windows that require massive energy for air conditioning because their orientation pays no heed to the sun's path. We designed sprawling suburbs without considering wind patterns or natural water flow, leading to urban heat islands and catastrophic flooding. We created a built environment that actively fights against natural rhythms, resulting in colossal energy waste, light pollution that obscures the starry skies our ancestors revered, and a profound sense of disconnection from the natural world. Our modern infrastructure, for all its power, is often brittle, vulnerable to power outages and resource shortages because it is not woven into the local ecology. The exciting movement now is to rediscover and adapt this ancient wisdom for the future. This isn't about abandoning technology, but about enhancing it with a deeper ecological intelligence. Imagine a new district where buildings are automatically oriented for optimal solar gain, with rooftops angled for maximum rainwater collection and photovoltaic energy production. Picture parks and greenways that aren't just random patches of lawn, but are strategically aligned to form urban wildlife corridors and channel cooling airflows, much like the sacred avenues of old processions. We can use modern computational tools to design urban layouts that maximize daylight penetration, minimize energy consumption, and even align key public spaces with celestial events, not for worship, but for public wonder and seasonal celebration, a solstice festival in a park designed to catch the first light of that specific sunrise. This is the promise of biomimicry and ecological urbanism, not to copy ancient forms, but to emulate their deep principles of integration and harmony, creating cities that are not just sustainable in the technical sense, but are truly regenerative, enhancing their local ecosystems while providing for human needs. The genius of our ancestors offers a powerful compass, pointing toward a future where our cities are not just places we live, but active, harmonious participants in the health of the planet. Imagine being able to stand in the very spot where an ancient Egyptian priest once stood, to look up and see not our modern night sky, but the exact arrangement of stars as it appeared over the Karnak temple complex 3,500 years ago. This is no longer a fantasy. We are living in a golden age of rediscovery, where cutting-edge technology is giving us a powerful new set of eyes to see the past, allowing us to validate long-held theories and uncover secrets that have been literally buried for millennia. This isn't about replacing traditional archaeology. It's about supercharging it, using digital tools to peel back the layers of time and see these celestial cities with a clarity that was once impossible. The revolution begins with software that can roll back the celestial clock. Programs like Stellarium, which is free and available to anyone with a computer, are nothing short of time machines for the sky. Archaeoastronomers can input the exact latitude and longitude of a site like Stonehenge or Teotihuacan, and then dial the date back to 2000 BCE with pinpoint accuracy. This allows them to see which stars were rising and setting on the horizon on the solstices and equinoxes, not as they are today, but as the builders themselves would have witnessed them. This has been absolutely crucial for confirming the intentionality behind alignments. A temple doorway that today seems to point to empty space might, when viewed through this software, line up perfectly with the brilliant star Sirius as it rose in 1500 BCE, finally confirming a hypothesis that was once based on educated guesswork. It transforms abstract calculations into a visual, undeniable reality. But what about the cities themselves? How do we see the original urban plan when it's been obscured by later construction, vegetation, or simply the slow burial of time? This is where LiDAR technology comes in, and it feels like something out of science fiction. Light detection and ranging involves flying a specially equipped aircraft over a landscape, like the jungles of Guatemala, and firing hundreds of thousands of laser pulses per second at the ground. These pulses penetrate the thick rainforest canopy and bounce back from the ground surface, allowing computers to create an incredibly detailed, three-dimensional topographic map of the Earth beneath the trees. The revelations have been staggering. In recent years, LiDAR surveys over Maya territories have revealed entire lost cities, vast networks of roads and causeways, and complex irrigation systems that were completely invisible to the naked eye. This technology allows us to see the full, grand extent of these cosmic blueprints for the first time, showing how a ceremonial causeway aligned to a solstice sunrise might have connected an entire region in a sacred geometry that was previously unimaginable. These tools are then brought together in breathtaking digital reconstruction projects. One of the most ambitious is Digital Karnak, an initiative out of the University of California, Los Angeles. The team didn't just create a static model of the famous Egyptian temple, they built a four-dimensional virtual world. You can explore the entire complex as it evolved over 2,000 years, watching as pharaoh after pharaoh added new pylons, obelisks, and halls. But the real magic happens when you can toggle the celestial overlay. The software can demonstrate how the main axis of the temple was aligned to the winter solstice sunrise, and how the light would have penetrated deep into the inner sanctum on that specific day, illuminating statues of the gods. It lets you experience the precise moment of the heliacal rising of Sirius, proving how the architecture was designed to capture that first, critical gleam of light that heralded the Nile's flood. This turns dry academic data into an immersive, emotional experience. The importance of this technological revival extends far beyond exciting new discoveries. It plays a vital role in preservation. climate change, rising sea levels, urban encroachment, and even mass tourism are posing existential threats to these irreplaceable heritage sites. By creating meticulous high-resolution LiDAR maps and detailed three-dimensional models, we are effectively creating a digital backup of our shared human history. If a section of a wall at Mohenjo-Daro is damaged by floods, or if the intricate carvings at Angkor Wat continue to erode, we will have a perfect record of them for future generations. These digital archives are not just for researchers, they are a form of global insurance, ensuring that the knowledge encoded in these stones is never lost. Perhaps most beautifully, this technology is a powerful democratizing force. Not everyone can afford a trip to Egypt or Cambodia, but anyone with an internet connection can now take a virtual walk through a digitally reconstructed ancient city. Museums around the world are creating immersive virtual reality experiences where you can don a headset and stand in the center of the Great Plaza of Tikal, looking up as the sun sets precisely behind the roof comb of Temple 1. This public engagement is creating a new global appreciation for the sophistication of ancient minds. It shatters the outdated notion of primitive ancients and replaces it with a well-deserved awe for their intellectual and spiritual achievements, fostering a deeper connection to this incredible heritage and inspiring a new generation of archaeologists, astronomers, and historians to continue the work of decoding our cosmic past. Yet as we stand in our modern cities, surrounded by glass towers and the constant hum of traffic, it's worth pausing to ask what we might have lost in our pursuit of pure efficiency and what we could possibly regain. The ancient practice of building in harmony with the cosmos offers us more than just a historical curiosity. It provides a powerful set of metaphors and practical inspirations for confronting the very modern crises of urban sprawl, social disconnection, and the looming climate emergency. Their cities were not just places to live, they were designed to make people feel connected, to feel a part of something vast and meaningful, to feel a sense of awe and responsibility toward the world around them. This is perhaps the most vital lesson we can learn, that our built environment has a profound impact on our psychological and spiritual well-being, and that by ignoring this, we have created landscapes that can often feel alienating and unsustainable. We don't need to start building pyramids to recapture this magic. The principles can be translated into a stunningly modern context through approaches like biophilic design, which seeks to reconnect us with the natural world even within an urban setting. Imagine an office building whose atrium is not just a lobby but a thriving vertical garden, filled with the sound of running water and the clean scent of plants, reducing stress and improving air quality. Picture apartment complexes designed around central courtyards with mature trees, not just as decoration, but as essential green lungs for the community, fostering chance encounters and a sense of neighborliness that is so often missing in anonymous high-rises. This is about consciously weaving nature back into the concrete and steel, acknowledging that our well-being is still intrinsically tied to the living world, just as our ancestors believed their survival was tied to the stars. The ancient understanding of light can also be powerfully updated for our time. We now have the science to prove what they intuitively knew, that our bodies are deeply synchronized with the solar cycle. The modern scourge of artificial light at night, especially the blue light from our screens, disrupts our circadian rhythms, leading to sleep disorders, anxiety, and a host of other health issues. But we can fight back with circadian lighting systems that mimic the natural progression of daylight, shifting from energizing blue-white light in the morning to warm, calming amber tones in the evening. This isn't just a technical upgrade, it's a way of bringing the rhythm of the sun back into our homes and workplaces, honoring the biological reality of our connection to the cosmos that the ancients celebrated in their architecture. A school designed with classrooms that flood with morning light can help students focus, while a hospital ward that allows patients to see the sunset can genuinely aid in their healing. On a larger scale, we can rethink our public spaces to once again host community rituals aligned with the seasons. We may not be sacrificing to a rain god, but we can certainly organize harvest festivals in urban parks, solstice celebrations in public squares, or stargazing nights that temporarily dim city lights to reveal the majesty of the Milky Way. These shared experiences create a powerful collective memory and reconnect us to the natural cycles that govern our planet. They remind us that we are part of a community and part of a larger cosmic order, fostering a sense of shared responsibility for each other and for the environment. This moves us away from the isolating individualism of modern life and toward a more integrated, compassionate way of living together. Ultimately, this is an invitation to a shift in perspective on both a grand and a deeply personal scale. It asks urban planners and architects to see their role not just as designers of structures, but as shapers of human experience, with a responsibility to create spaces that nurture wonder and connection. And for the rest of us, it's an invitation to simply look up, not just at the sky, but at the design of our own streets and homes. How does the light enter your living room in the afternoon? Can you see the moon from your window? Is there a place in your neighborhood where people naturally gather? This reflection isn't a call to abandon modernity and return to the past. It is about integrating the timeless wisdom of harmony, balance, and meaning into the fabric of our contemporary world. By doing so, we can begin to build cities that do more than just function. They can help us flourish, creating modern lives that are not only more efficient and sustainable, but also more harmonious, more awe-inspiring, and profoundly more purposeful. From the pyramids of Giza to the grand avenues of Teotihuacan, these ancient cities reveal something far more profound than just architectural genius. They show us a universal human yearning, a deep, enduring quest to build our world in the image of a meaningful, ordered universe. Our ancestors looked up at the vast, starry expanse and saw not a cold, empty void, but a divine blueprint, a sacred map teeming with stories, rhythms, and connections. They then performed one of the most ambitious acts of human creativity. They brought that map down to earth, etching the heavens into stone, earth, and street. This celestial urbanism was never just about symbolism. It was a sophisticated fusion of science, spirituality, and society, a holistic system that sustained cultures, guided daily life, and offered every citizen a tangible connection to the cosmos. What we uncover as we decode these secrets are not mere historical curiosities, but timeless principles that feel startlingly relevant today. These ancient builders understood that a city is more than just a collection of buildings. It's a living entity that can either alienate us or connect us. Their designs nurtured a profound sense of belonging, weaving sustainability into the very fabric of their streets by aligning them with the sun's warmth and the seasonal rains. They engineered wonder into the mundane, transforming a simple walk to the market into a participation in a cosmic ritual. In an age of climate crisis, urban loneliness, and concrete sprawl, their wisdom offers us a powerful alternative, a vision of urban life that is not separate from nature, but in constant, harmonious dialogue with it. So the next time you find yourself looking up at the night sky, I encourage you to do more than just admire its beauty. Let your imagination wander. Picture how the steady rotation of the constellations, the reliable path of the sun, or the gentle phases of the moon could inspire the way we design our own communities. Imagine a neighborhood laid out to catch the morning light in every kitchen, a public park designed to host a solstice celebration, or a city skyline that doesn't blot out the stars but frames them. The challenges we face are new, but the inspiration is as old as humanity itself. The sky above is more than a spectacle. It remains the original map for building a world that is sustainable, connected, and filled with wonder. What would our cities look like if we dared to read it once again? Share your own thoughts and ideas in the comments below. I love hearing from you. And if you want to join us for more journeys into the world's greatest mysteries, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Thank you.